tonight. We appreciate it. And this time, for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please stand.
Let's pray. Lord, we come to you and humbly ask, Lord, that you would continue to guide, direct, strengthen, comfort, and heal those that need these things. Lord, in a time of our world when there's just so much strife, there's so much pain and hurting, Lord, we look to you as the true source of our peace and our comfort. Lord, we know that you are God, you are in control, nothing catches you by surprise. But again, Lord, we come to you tonight asking that you would heal our nation, that you would give comfort to those that are hurting in such a bad way tonight. Lord, that you would heal where that is needed. And Lord, we just pray ultimately for your will to be done with our town, our state, and our nation. And Father, we will thank you for all the blessings that we continue to receive. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This time I call this meeting to order. Today's date, January 11th, 2022, Tuesday. I have 7 o'clock. And Ms. Debbie, if you'll call roll, we appreciate it.
We have Mayor Walker.
Here.
Alderman Pace.
Here.
Alderman Harper.
Here.
Alderman Feldmeier.
Here.
Alderman Aiken.
Here.
Alderwoman Renfro. Here. And Alderman Giannini is absent, away on military duty.
All right, minutes, Exhibit A, you have it in your packet. Exhibit B, you're having your packet. And if you'll look at both of those and make sure that it's corrected how we handle that, we'll take both of those at this time, A and B.
Motion to approve.
I'll say.
We have a motion to approve Exhibit A, regular board meeting, and we have a motion to approve Exhibit B, beer board meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Financial report, Exhibit C, report that should be on the board. And at this time, Mr. Administrator, go over that with us. And I'd like to tell the people that are here that our financial, getting ready for the next financing year is fixing to start, and that'll be a big thing that we're fixing to get into for the next town year, not calendar year, but town year. All right, Mr. Administrator.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. So you have on the screen for you there, so you can see that the general fund revenues are totaling $5.306 million. If you recall from last month, we were showing maybe a little bit of a shortfall in the revenue, but as expected, we saw our property taxes come in over the last month, and they'll continue probably for the next month and a half or so. So you can see that we're at $5.3 million. On our expenditures, we're at $4.8 million for the total, so we have excess revenue over expenditures of $490,690, and our cash on hand is $4.363 million. State Street aid, so we have $183,000 in revenue, and we haven't spent any, but we did just cut a check for some of the. We paid for that out of general, didn't we?
State Street aid.
We did pay the State Street.
Yes.
Okay, so
260-something.
you'll see the expense on the road paving here in the next cycle. So you can see our cash on hand is $386. That's going to be adjusted once we pay that expense, which will be reflected next month. Our drug fund, so we brought in $10,000 on revenue, and we're still showing just the expense on the one used vehicle that we purchased for our liaison. And you can see that our excess revenue over expenses, so we're minus $12,620. I think we'll see that start to go away as we bring in some more revenue on the drug fund. Our solid waste collections, as expected, again, we talked about earlier in the year that we were in the negative, and that was for the delayed billing. So we had a quarter of billing to make up, but you can see that now that we're starting to see those revenues over expenses, so $3,668 in positive revenue, and our cash on hand in the solid waste fund is $241,000. Water fund, I think most of you are aware, so we're working through the draft study, trying to come up with some of that information so we can get a proper adjustment on the rates with TAUD, but we are trending, so it's a cumulative net loss of $102,000, so that's for the 6-month period, July 2021 to December 31st, 2021. We do still have cash on hand at the end of the period is $785,059. On your sewer fund, same thing there because it's both water and sewer rates. You can see that again, cumulative total $73,000 in the negative, and you can see that we've got cash on hand at the end of the period of $2.191 million. So total all funds $8.572 million.
Mark, just to be on record, if we'll go back, please. On the sewer now, we spent a lot of time trying to adjust it there. So to me, we need to really look at that, to me. Because we went up on sewer and we did those things. But now, we were all together at that time. I just want the public to know that. And now we're separating and we can get a handle on it better. But that's something that we need. But the water, and y'all have checked it, we don't have a leak anywhere, is that right?
Well, we're assessing the amount that we've billed, the gallons, and that what we bill. We want to see what we've also purchased. So we want to try to reconcile those numbers, and then if there's a larger discrepancy, historically, we've had less than a 6% water loss, which
Well,
is
that's in
on the very,
that's
very
in the
low
safe
side.
haven thing. They allow that, don't they?
Yeah, that's a very good water loss percentage, but there's a couple things at play when you're looking at the first year of separating both funds. So when we created the budget for fiscal year 22, we did our best estimate of what we thought our expenses were going to be in both funds. Obviously, they're not going to be 100% dead on. It's our best guess since it's our first year. And we also could remind y'all that we had some assistance through MTAS for the finance consultant that helped us break and segregate those funds. So going into the next budget, fiscal 23, we'll have a lot better idea of what our expenses are in each
Because
of
we had
those
to
funds.
guesstimate on this.
Correct.
Splitting it up like this.
Correct.
But now our math man, Danny, Alderman Philmer right here, it says we have, supposed to have around 700, am I right?
That's just what I come up with.
Of calculating.
Once I find out how many we've actually billed versus paid for, but my math may be wrong.
But we're not condemning or nothing, we're just
Sure.
saying that there's some things that we need to look at to make.
Yes, I would anticipate hopefully by February we'll be able to come back and provide some more detail as far as what the suggested rate adjustment would be. Because that's what's kind of created some questions, so we provided information all along the way to TAUD of information that they've requested. So we get a little further along, we've gotten a draft report, we've gotten a draft rate adjustment, but what they're proposing in their rate adjustment doesn't seem to be enough revenue to cover the expenses of what our actuals are.
For the public out here, that's the board that we have to go through, and they spank us or they don't spank us. If there are workers' terms to it, if we're not meeting it. Isn't that right, Mark?
If you have 2 consecutive years of negative revenue, you'll be referred to the wastewater financing.
And then they take control and they decide, and that concerns me, or it concerns the board here, so we're looking at that, trying to be vigilant for the people of the community.
Yes, sir.
But I will say this, in our contract for 5 years, they meaning the people we buy from, go up every year on us. And we've never passed that on to the public. We just take it and then wait till the next 5 years and then try to make a contract. But we're gonna have to start, it looks like to me, just for information, all this is just me. And discussed it with the board, and they ultimately have the decision. But we're gonna have to start taking and going up when they go up too, to not just hit you all at once, like we do taxes or something. But we're gonna have to start looking at that.
Mark, on payroll, I mean, because again, this is best guess, but we're at 60% on both. We're tracking kind of right where we were last year. I didn't know if there was if we had maybe like some extra overtime that may have hit. I know we had that sewer main break. I didn't know if that may like inflate some of this. I just kind of getting a grasp of why we're at 60% on both at this point.
Yeah, the way we calculated the labor allocation, so we essentially divided up 33%.
Right.
So 33% for water, sewer, and road, so that gets divided up in thirds.
Right.
Overtime, I'll just tell you, overtime continues to be a challenge, so once Director Patrick gets back from leave, I'll be working with him to try to dig into the overtime consumption and try to reduce that, so.
Gotcha.
But
And that was nothing but for information, in my humble opinion, so just for your information. Do I have a motion that are you through?
Unless y'all have any more
Have any more
questions.
questions? I have a motion to approve on the finances to accept it.
Second.
I have a second by Alder Lady Renfro. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on, ordinance final consideration for the motor vehicle traffic and parking, Title 15, Exhibit D. Now, if anybody needs us to explain that, we will. We went over it with first consideration, so this is the final. But it is, the motor vehicle traffic and parking was reviewed by that safety committee, and then with chief, and then with Mr. Administrator, and we brought it to you. First vote was to move forward. So is there any questions concerning the motor vehicle traffic and parking? And time to look at it more. All right, move. I'll give you another chance in just a minute. An ordinance to amend or have the motor vehicle traffic and parking requirements set before us. And let me stop right there. Ms. Debbie, tell me what we're fixing to vote on, how you got it written down.
I usually read the ordinance by title only.
Yeah, I know, but tell me right now before you do that. Again, you can read it right now.
Okay. An ordinance to amend Title 15, Motor Vehicle Traffic and Parking of the Town of Atoka Municipal Code of Ordinances.
All right, that's the ordinance that I want in record that I'm saying right now that we want, just what you said.
Exhibit D.
All right, the town, do you want to present any more facts, Mark? All right, as this is a second final consideration of the ordinance, is there any objection to reading the ordinance by title only? Hearing none, please read, Ms. Reporter.
An ordinance to amend Title 15, Motor Vehicle Traffic and Parking of the Town of Atoka Municipal Code of Ordinances.
Okay,
Make a motion that the ordinance be passed on the second reading, the 11th of January.
all right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion, any more discussion or anything you want to bring up? Hearing none, roll call, Alderman Fairmere?
Yes.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Pace?
Yes.
Alder Lady Renfro?
Yes.
Alderman Aiken?
Yes.
All right, moving on, number 2, let me stop right here. Now, Mr. Mark, we hadn't done this about the, where alder staffing member can participate, electronic participation. Now, Alderman Giannini, I understood, wasn't going to be able to participate tonight because where he was, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so all right. Final consideration for streets and sidewalks, Title 16, Exhibit E in your packet. So there's a ordinance, first consideration to amend Title 16, Streets and Sidewalks. Do what? Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
All right. As this is the final consideration of the ordinance, any objection to reading the ordinance by title only? Hearing none, Ms. Recorder.
An ordinance to amend Title 16, Streets and Sidewalks, etc. of the Town of Atoka Municipal Code of Ordinances.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance? All right. Read it then. Did you read it? Hearing none, will you read it, Ms. Porter?
I just read it, sir.
Read it one more time,
Okay, sir.
please.
An ordinance to amend Title 16, Streets and Sidewalks, etc. of the Town of Atoka Municipal Code of Ordinances.
All right, is there a motion to approve the ordinance for final passage?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, Exhibit E, the ordinance, recommend we pass on the second consideration.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Roll call, Alderman Harbor.
Yes.
Alderman Pace.
Yes.
Alderman Lady Renfro.
Yes.
Alderman Aiken.
Yes.
Alderman Philmary.
Yes.
Ordinance final consideration, electronic participation for elected officials, Exhibit F. And it's an ordinance for electronic participation for elected official to participate if they're in the military and on duty. And this is a final consideration of the ordinance. Is there an objection to reading the ordinance by title only? Hearing none, Ms. Recorder.
An ordinance to allow a member of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the Town of Atoka, Tennessee to attend sessions of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by the use of two-way electronic audio-video communication when that member is deployed as a service member as defined in the Tennessee Code annotated 6-54-143.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, Alderman Pace.
Yes.
Alderman Lady Renfro.
Yes.
Alderman Aiken.
Yes.
Alderman Philmary.
Yes.
Alderman Harbor.
Yes.
Moving on. Appointment we had a person to resign on the Board of Zoning and Appeals, and I've nominated Mr. Keith Moore to be on that. I think Mr. Alderman Philmar and Pastor Weems are on that right now. Do I have a motion to accept Keith Moore?
I make a motion to accept Keith Moore.
I have a second.
Second?
All right.
Mayor, who resigned?
Bob Hadden. Bob Hadden did. He was going to wait a little while, but some things came up. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Ordinance and resolution. Ordinance first consideration, amending Title 8, Chapter 2, Beer Regulations, Exhibit G in your packet. And this has been looked at by the Safety Committee, is that it? And they have gone over that with Administrator Warner and
I can elaborate that for you, Mayor, if you'd like.
I'm gonna ask you. But it's an ordinance for amending Title 8, Chapter 2, Beer Regulations, Exhibit G in your packet. Town Administrator, will you give us some background?
Sure can. So I think we've seen recently where we like to have a little bit more strength in the beer ordinance, the beer regulations. So based on that feedback, staff had drafted an ordinance for revisions. We reviewed it as staff and made comments and some changes. And then once we did that as staff, then we engaged the Public Safety Committee, which consists of Alderman Feldmayer and Alderwoman Renfro. We met to discuss those revisions. And based on the feedback that we got at that meeting, I think everybody that was there felt pretty comfortable. On review, since the packet's going out, I did hear back from Alderman Giannini. I'll let Alderwoman Renfro speak for herself, but Alderman Giannini felt that the provision in 8-207, where we were asking for, let's see, that's going to be 8-207. So it's number 10, where applicant must secure the signatures of 10 reputable citizens who live in or have a business located in the areas where the business is to be located, etc. At least Alderman Giannini felt that 10 was too many, and he felt more comfortable with 3 citizens signing on. So at this point, that is the only concern or question that I've gotten since the packet has gone out.
What was the reason?
He felt that was too many, 10. Again, it was a mechanism to try to make sure that people that are applying for beer permits are of good character. And the initial thoughts were that if you could get 10 folks to sign on and say that you're a good character, then generally you're probably pretty good. But you know, in this day and age, where people are doing different things, they're living different places, they might have a business in Atoka that might be applying for a permit, it felt like maybe that 10 was too excessive. So it's the thought of 3. Anyway, that was what was proposed. So
Any other?
told him I would express his thoughts as best I could. I can't actually speak for him, but I would relay that information.
All right, any other?
I don't have a problem with going to 3.
I agree. I like 3 better than, I thought 10 was kind of excessive.
Mark, maybe I missed kind of a definition, but what are we considering reputable as well? Is there a definition on that?
Well, and there is not really a definition, but there are provisions in the current ordinance and the proposed ordinance that you're supposed to be someone of good moral character, and you can define that however you wish.
Okay.
But there's also other provisions in there that define those folks who've been convicted of crimes of moral turpitude or felonies or those types of things. It does detail that a little further.
Okay.
And one of those provisions, if I can put my finger on it, I can point you right at it. Give me a second. Let's see if I can pull my those lists.
We just had to discuss that, in one of our meetings, about the, moral, good character.
More turpitude?
I
Yeah.
see 8.212, paragraph 1 talks about, you know, the moral turpitude for the applicant. If that's what you're referring there.
It is.
It's going to be kind of the same definition for our signatures as well.
Well, and then you have number 24, or is it 25? It's in section 8-20. You'll note that. It says, employee, any person convicted for the possession, sale, manufacture, transportation of intoxicating liquor, beer, a felony, any open, unadjudicated cases before any magistrate of any federal, state, local courts, any conviction of 2 or more drug-related offenses, including misdemeanors, or any crime involving moral turpitude within the last 10 years. So that particular section is talking about some of those regulations, so hopefully that.
I think that defines it.
Some information.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
All right, any other discussion?
I guess I have a question, page 7 of 12, section 8 to 11. The current law states that basically there'll be no beer permit issued within a distance requirement of less than 200 feet of a church or a school. My question is, when you typically think of a church or a school, it's a piece of real property purchased and built. But we're seeing quite a bit of what I call pop-up churches or even pop-up daycares and schools that lease within an existing commercial facility. How does that pertain to this 200-foot rule? Do we know?
Should be the
So,
same thing.
and I can let either of
It
the,
should be the same thing.
Yeah.
It's still
Okay.
200 foot.
because we.
You can put a church daycare next to someone that sells alcohol, but you can't put something that sells alcohol next to a church room.
Okay.
But if you do, you gotta put a fence up 8 foot tall, don't you?
Yes. So for instance, say the shopping center where Casa Mexicana is, and for whatever reason,
There used to be
They
a
had-
church in it.
that's what I was thinking of, and they had to renew their license, at that point, they would be unable.
It'd be grandfathered in because they were there and the church moved in.
The church moved in.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't,
after they'd already.
you wouldn't punish that person.
Right.
Right.
If you punish anybody, it'd be church.
But just,
But we don't
well, just to
want to do
confirm, so if there's an existing church already in that facility, and then a new business then moves in that facility, they may be unable to obtain a beer permit.
Correct.
That is right. That's the way I understand it.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I just want to be clear.
That's good, good question. All right. Make a motion with that correction if y'all don't,
Has she read my title?
I don't know, have you read my title? I got it changed.
You
Read
ready?
it by title, Andrew's report. Please,
Okay.
read it by title.
An ordinance to amend Title 8, Chapter 2 of the Atoka Municipal Code relating to beer.
I make a motion, Exhibit G be approved with a correction in 8-207, number 10, from 10 signatures to 3.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion of anything that you've seen or we overlooked? Try to make it as good as possible for the benefit of the town. Hearing none, roll call. Alderman Lady Renfro,
Yes.
Alderman Aiken,
Yes.
Alderman Philmere,
Yes.
Alderman Harper,
Yes.
Alderman Pace.
Yes.
Moving on, that's Exhibit Z there. Now moving on, resolution donation policy and Exhibit H. Mr. Warner or Administrator Warner, tell us about that.
Sure. Donation policy, so if you recall, a month or two back, we had distributed donations to nonprofits as the town. Based on some feedback after that disbursement, it's recommended we review the donation policies so that there were no ongoing requests, that each and every year, folks had to come forward and submit a request. So that's what the revision is being made to include, that there's also a strong recommendation that the requester come to the board in person to present for their donation, and there's no longer going to be any ongoing yearly requests. So any of those donation requests would need to be permitted and presented at a certain date and time, which I think we have as March, if I'm not mistaken. So as part of the budget creation process, and we get a total amount of donations that can be included in the budget. So you have the draft policy and the donation request form, and you have a resolution to adopt both of those for consideration.
All right, as you've looked at it, Exhibit H, are there any changes that we need to make or from that, or is y'all like what you see?
I see that it says that we're going to a minimum of 3 weeks process. Are we going to start kind of voting on these as they come in versus like what we've done in December, where it's all one at one time, or are we going to continue to do that instead?
I think, at least my thought would be that as the budget creation moves forward,
Right.
that we say, okay, well, it's going to be, we've gotten requests and we need to budget $12,000 for these requests, and then
Right.
that would be approved at the budget process. But then those folks still have to make that presentation to the board, and whether or not you feel that request is worthy
Okay.
to be given to. So I think that we can make the approval when we do the budget.
Okay.
And we have a total number to budget for, and then we would disperse those funds as funds become available. Typically, that's towards the end of the calendar year.
Gotcha.
Okay, any other questions?
Just two things. I would like to see those that received the donation this year, just in the issue of transparency, maybe we issue them a letter, just letting them know that the policy has changed.
Yes, sir.
And then second, I didn't know if this donation request form could also be available online. How do
Sure.
they?
We can certainly put it online. And yeah, I probably should have mentioned that if the board decided to adopt the policy, the folks that received those donations would get the new policy. Yes, sir.
They would get a mail out besides looking,
Yes, sir.
if you got old people like me.
We would mail the notification to wherever we mailed the check to.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, do you have a motion to accept the resolution as presented?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Moving on. Approving debt issuance for fire apparatus purchase, Exhibit I in your packet. And Mr. Administrator.
Yes, sir. So last month's meeting presented on the recommendation to purchase the fire apparatus, the Sutphen Quint, and the board approved that purchase. And also during that approval process, the board also directed that any of the savings that we would create from the 100% prepayment, that approximately $32,000 would actually be savings, wouldn't be spent on other things. So what I've come up with, we got with Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund, and we submitted a request to them for a quote. And you can see with your not to exceed $660,000 is what the loan would be for a term of 10 years. As we did that, the board also in December said, hey, go out and get the financing, find the best deal. And we went ahead and did that. So once we did that, we had to submit to the comptroller's office to get the debt service approved. So that took some time. So we just got this earlier this week for the approval. So Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund has sent that resolution to you for your consideration and hopeful approval. If you have any other questions, we'd be glad to answer.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Is there, we got a second. Any more discussion, or you see any changes?
If I could, I probably should just mention that it's a $963,000 piece of equipment. So that is with the prepayment discount. So the amount that we're going to borrow is not to exceed $660,000 because we've got $214,000 on hand. Plus we have our $91,000 that we budgeted for this current fiscal year. So that's why it's only $660,000.
Thank you. All right, no more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on, resolution approval of fire staffing safer grant submittal, Exhibit J. I believe we've done this every year, and this is for 4 men, I believe. And, excuse me, not 4 men, it's for 4 years that they will do this grant. And then after that 4 years, and
It's after year 3, so
we have to do all of it. Is that
And
right?
Chief Posey can probably provide you with some more information. My understanding is that the grant would cover the personnel costs for the first 3 years in full, and then in year 4, the town would be required to.
Well, that's where I got this
compensation.
for.
Is that correct, Chief?
Beginning in year 4, the town will need to support the personnel cost.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. I think we understand it, do y'all?
Go ahead, Chief.
Just quickly, there you go. The Safer Grant is similar to last year. There's no match, which is really a good deal for us. In the past, you had to do, it was like a 80-20, then it went to 60-40, and then the third year it flipped around, then fourth year was on its own. What they're doing now is there's no match involved, so they pay the complete thing for 3 years, and then the fourth year, we pick it up.
So how many personnel were you looking at?
We're looking at it 3 to 4, depending on what we can get out of it. That would give us 3 and 3 at each station, so.
Chief, does this cover their gear, or are we on the hook for the gear as well?
The gear we pretty much got on hand anyway. We may have to order some turnouts, but like I said, with what we buy every year and the swapping that we do in and out of new gear versus our old, we'll have enough to outfit 3.
With the grant, now it says the grant's gonna cover funds to equip and train the new employees. So the Safer Grant will pay for new equipment, right?
That's what's in the
That's what's in the
resolution.
resolution.
It's written up. That we're voting on,
Yeah.
that she's fixing to read.
And the training, it's already in place, and whoever we hire, most of them have already got all their certifications.
But the Safer Grant will give them new equipment.
And that's your PPE, which is your personal protective
Right.
gear.
Okay?
As long as it's included.
No, okay. Well, it says, now in my little summary here, it says if the board approves the Safer Grant submittal for 3 fire personnel, and the grant is awarded beginning in year 4, the town will need to support the personnel costs. Is that correct?
Correct. 4th year, we take it on all, Mayor.
But I mean, it says 3 personnel, is what it says in this resolution, a little approval.
That's what we applied for last year, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, we're doing this in time that they can't say funds are out, is that right?
That's why we're doing early. For whatever reason, I think COVID has a lot to do with it. They've upped the time frame. They're coming out a lot earlier than what they normally, this would usually be March or April before it come out. They're coming
Right.
out in If we could also, I got the thing this week on the fire safety grant that they just came out with it too, that we put in for last year. So if we could,
We'll just vote on that next month. Is that the one you're talking about?
well, the window's what we're looking at. I think it's like February 17th window on that. I mean, we can have
But
it.
this is the one that you wanted to add.
Yes, sir.
I just
So Chief, the
look at that.
three personnel, I mean, just for full transparency, what are we looking at year 4? I mean, is it 70,000 a piece, 80,000 a piece, 240 total? What are we looking at in year 4?
We're looking at, and what I'm basing on is a paramedic salary, which is $49,990 plus their benefits.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's benefits on top of that,
Correct.
probably
180 to
60, 65 probably, times 3.
Correct.
Okay.
Thereabouts.
I think when
Okay.
we submitted for it before, my last notes were that it was about 205,000
Okay.
was roughly for the salary and benefits for the 3 was the estimate.
All right.
Well, Chief, let's go back to, let's vote on this and then we'll talk about the other.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to approve Exhibit J to put out to try to hire 3 fire.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion, all right, we have a motion to, for the SAFER grant submittal, and is there any more discussion? Everybody understand? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Chief, tell me what this other grant that you.
The other is the
had.
fire safety grant that we put in for every year, and that's for fire prevention and kind of public education and fire education.
I thought,
It's usually around the 25,000 is what we usually put in for materials and everything.
did we get that?
No, so we did not get it last year.
What'd they say?
No.
You know? All right, let me rephrase.
It was a big NO.
What did they say no for?
The ones we put in last year, primarily, they run out of money. I know we had gotten past, there's 3 different things that they do. They go through a electronic, and from electronic, it goes to a panel, and then it goes to the awarding.
So
And we got past-
25,000, we're applying for 25,000. And that's for education process.
For material and stuff like that.
For
for public education.
elementary kids?
It can be for adults, it can be anybody in the community, Mayor.
Okay.
And what's our match?
Match, I think, is like 10%.
Now, when is our board meeting next time?
February 8th.
You gotta get it in by 17th.
17th, yes, sir.
You can have it all written up.
We can have it written-
We'll address that next week.
Okay,
Next
we can have it written up, and
Yeah.
if and when y'all do,
That'd
we
be
submit it.
fine. Okay. We'll wait on that then,
Okay.
since, because I gotta get my mind around it.
All right, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Used to, as a younger man, I could think quicker. I can't now. All right, thank you. All right, miscellaneous items, approval of Park and Recreation 2022 spring events, Exhibit K in your packet, and I believe they have a list of it, is that right? I ain't got Exhibit K, what is it? Thank you, Dan. Aldermen. All right, the Food Truck Festival, Atoka Barbecue Festival, Bunny Brunch, and that's only 3?
For the spring, you'll get.
That's all you want? You're not doing it for the year, just these 3?
Just through April.
Our motion approved.
Second.
Now, we have a motion to approve the spring for Food Truck Festival, and it's got the times and all on there. Y'all see that Atoka Barbecue Festival, which is March 31st this year, Bunny Brunch. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on, job description of a planner engineer, Exhibit L in your packet, and if you'll go over that for us, Mr. Administrator.
Sure.
Are you keeping up?
Yes, sir. So you have the job description for the planner engineer. This position was discussed way back when we were working on the budget. We actually budgeted a salary amount for this position. So you have the job description in front of you for your review and consideration. And, as we continue to grow, having a staff member who can provide the functions outlined in the job description is even going to become more important. So I can try to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, for me, it's great for us for the comprehensive plan that we've thrown how much money in, 125,
Yes, sir.
30,000 in. This just adds to helping us fulfill what we need. Has everybody looked at the job description? We have a motion to approve it.
Second.
Is this a resolution?
No, it's just
Just us approving it.
Just your approval. You can see that it's the planning and inspection department. This individual would respond to the reply or report to the town administrator. It would be an exempt position, so that if the board approves the position, we'll go ahead and get this advertised and make needed adjustments on other
All right.
job descriptions.
We have a motion by Alderman Philmeyer. We have a second by Alderlady Renfro. Any more discussion? All in favor of doing job description for planner engineer? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Donation request from the fire department, and this is one that I think we left off, because I thought the fire department got all the money they needed. I'm playing with you. But anyway, it's for $1,000, is that right?
Yes, sir. You have the memo from Chief Posey included in there, and it was inadvertently left off the disbursement request when we had given out the donations a month or so ago. We
Okay.
recommend that we approve.
This is how we would have to do it for next year, though. They explained to us. It's a good here. Chief, why don't you stand up here and tell them what this $1,000 is for? I know it goes to, that's why I was saying elementary. It goes to elementary. I know they do it every year.
Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. What this is the National Fire Safety Council, and we coordinate with them and we go through the community. This 1,000 is one that the town has donated every year that's part of the money that we collect. We go around to different businesses and we end up somewhere around $5,000. This goes into the fire prevention activity books. It goes to the Atoka Elementary and also the 4 daycares to teach fire safety and
They even do a fire extinguisher. How to let that off, no?
do that. We also, from this, we get points. We're able to get Fire Pup, the dog that we've got that we use for fire prevention programs that was out there on Safe Night Out. The fire bags for Safe Night Out, all the safety bags for Halloween, that come out of this fund. So it benefits the kids and the community.
All right, any other questions of Chief? All right, do I have a motion that we take the donation or the request from fire department for $1,000? Is that right? Is that the way we need to say it? Y'all got a better way?
Make a motion, the amount of $1,000 be approved for the fire department.
All right, we have a motion by Alderman Aiken. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion on this? Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank y'all.
All right, now I'm adding one more thing on the miscellaneous items. If you'll look at your memorandum that Administrator Warner gave out to you on a policy, we need a policy set by resolution by us to clarify future actions regarding electronic broadcast of any public meetings. And we gave you 3 options. You have some more options, you can do that. This is just for me and my brain to comprehend. And we have 3 options. We can do it the old way, like we used to before COVID, and no electronic broadcast of public meetings. Number 2, this is what we're doing right now, and this is what we told Town Administrator Mark Warner to take it and get with Kurt, and they work up a plan of how to get this out to the public. And they did it through YouTube, and the way I understand it, of course, there's no citizen interaction, but they can look at this like we do, like we're going to be looking at the SEC championship game for 2 or 3 weeks, you can rerun it like that. Is that the example? You know, well, that's what we can do here. They can look back at that, and I think we got 5 already on the Town of Atoka that you can punch and rewind it if they wasn't here. So that's how it's being done right now. And y'all read that and you can see. And then we have live stream only. This option means there's only one and done. That's my way of saying it. You can see it while it's going on, and there's no citizen input. And if you have another way that you want to bring before us, then this board needs to come up with what they want, and let's put it in a resolution form where there be no misunderstanding, where nobody will say, well, we thought it was this way or that way. It's been, reason why it started in October, I believe, but for 2 months we ran it trying to work the kinks out with Kirk, and he did it through the planning commission, and he did it through, what else besides the board and planning, and the beer board, and he got the kinks worked out, and we started in October. So that is what's been going on behind the scenes. We haven't been trying to hide anything, we just to the public. So what would y'all like to see? Give me make a motion on continuing as we are right now with the live stream broadcast through YouTube. And how can we get this out that everybody know this? That's the kicker. We're gonna go through the Atoka, Mr. Administrator.
Yes, sir. So once we have some clarity and direction from the board how you want to proceed, we can make sure that if there's going to be a live stream or we're going to continue as is, we'll make sure that information is put out on Facebook and the town website. Hopefully, we'd be able to provide more of a static address that folks would go to, and that would just direct them to the current link to the current stream.
Okay, my question is, of course, during COVID, the governor's regulations allowed us to actually meet via Zoom, vote via Zoom. Of course, that executive action is ended. Is there any legality preventing us from just still Zooming? Now, we have to vote here from the board, but just to offer a Zoom version for if, say, a citizen did want to communicate to the board at the end of the meeting just for comments.
I don't think you have any
There's no
legal issues
Okay,
if you
no legal
decide to
issues
do that.
preventing that.
You know, with option number 2, the live stream, of kind of what we're currently doing now, we are housing what we've recorded in its entirety on the YouTube channel. You know, so it does raise a question about how the records and the data would be retained, so we would probably have to generate some sort of a policy of how long it's going to be on there and those types of things.
Right.
So with option 3, with the live stream only, you don't have any of the data retention issues or concerns.
And if they have some concerns, they can email it to us and all, and at citizens' time, I can read that concern, and we'll have 2 minutes, just like we give everybody else, to discuss that and do it.
Explain that a little bit more, Mayor.
Next meeting,
All right, if we decide to do this and citizens have a concern, they can email it to the town administrator or whoever he designates, and we can get it, and I will read it to y'all, and we can discuss it, or what they're doing, and give and talk about it, and give the answer, just like we can now, but, I mean, that's the way we can handle that, and give them 2 minutes for us to discuss that, like we do citizens who come out, and we give 2 minutes for them up there at the podium. But it's up to y'all, and we want clarity. We want everybody to be able to participate and know the world is changing.
Mark, is there any other municipalities that you know of that are doing still a virtual for comments or questions? Or would we be kind of inventing that wheel on kind of dealing with it?
I'll be honest, I have not called around to see what other municipalities are doing. I'm sure that there are some municipalities that are, they're doing the full thing. They're doing the whole interaction
Right.
with Zoom and however they're doing it. But, you know, this is becoming it's becoming more and more in our daily lives. People are more accustomed to it. So it really is kind of how y'all want to do it.
And let me say this, we discussed this, and we had some discussion. Finally, I just told, after the discussion, we told Mark, or I did, as mayor, told him to come up with a plan and give it to Kurt and see what he could work out. He's volunteering, we're not paying him. We gave him a hat. You might have to give that back.
I think we gave him a plaque.
Yeah, we gave him a plaque. It's done. But anyway, he's done that out of kindness of his heart.
Now, right now, do we say, I know we record all our meetings on the little recorder. Do we save tapes or anything once the meetings?
So, we would have that information up until the meeting minutes are generated and approved by the board at the next meeting. Once that happens, the recording on the recorder goes away. It's deleted.
So really 3 would be like what we're doing with the recorder now?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I like 2 because just if a citizen happens to be busy, if they happen to be dealing with children, doing whatever, they can always go back at a later time, and it's more flexibility. If you do 3, like the mayor said, it's one and done. If you happen to be whatever, you're going to miss your opportunity. So, I mean, I like number 2, the way we're doing it right now.
Kurt, from a storage standpoint, I was going back and looking through some of my notes. I know earlier there was some concern about recording Zoom, and basically, I think we have to maintain that record for so long. I don't know how long that is, but I think that was one of the concerns of the board, is that I guess my question is, if we did a live Zoom that was recorded in lieu of a YouTube video, is there a big difference in either equipment, cost, storage, a lot more work on you?
Well, if you do the Zoom option, then when you record, or if you record the Zoom meeting, then you have to have it housed in some kind of storage. Now, we could do a Zoom meeting and then upload the Zoom recording to YouTube and let YouTube store it, but if you're looking to house the data in-house, you'll have to have some kind of storage device, be it an external hard drive or something like that, to be able to throw that onto. My understanding is that the retention on electronic meetings and stuff like that is 7 years.
7 years. That's what TCA code says.
It'd be a lot.
Yeah, if you're talking keeping the video with it, that's a fair amount of storage.
Hey, Kurt.
Yes.
Hey, Kurt. Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you.
Hey, hey guys, this is Casey. So I had gotten in touch with the legal department at MTAS about this, and if the videos are merely streamed and it's not a back and forth kind of where, we don't have votes and things like that, then once the minutes are approved the next month, you're able to destroy the documents. You don't have to keep that video for 7 years.
What about Zoom?
Well, that'd be the
That would be the same
That'd be the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless there's back and forth.
That's words.
I guess that's my clarification, is if there's back and forth conversation with a citizen comment, is that the same as?
Oh, no. No. And I think even the ones when they were having Zoom meetings during the pandemic, even those were able actually to be destroyed or not retained after everything is approved, I guess the next month, and the minutes are officially approved. So you're basically only having to keep them for a month.
And we could always decide how long we want to keep it. You're just saying,
Yes, absolutely, but you are
just
not
saying
required to keep
we're
them
not
for 7
obligated more than a
years.
month. So if we made a decision as a board that we would keep a year at a time, that's our prerogative.
Absolutely, yes. You do not have the requirement. Like, I believe this came up a couple months ago. I checked with MTAS, and they said that they are advising board members to keep them longer than they are actually required to, but they don't have to. The only requirement is that you keep them until the next meeting when the formal minutes are approved.
Okay.
Kurt, because you're the one kind of running the online side of this, I know kind of for interaction, Zoom kind of gets a little I guess, in the weeds because it generates that one-time link. We can't have just a recurring link, which kind of eliminates what we were talking about, you know. And then there's been times that we've had to last minute kind of throw a new link out there because Zoom wasn't working or whatever. Is there any other options that you know of? Because I know like YouTube, things like YouTube, Twitch, stuff like that, you can comment just in, you know, just to write it out, but nothing that you can actually reach out to and speak on.
Nothing like, I mean, there are other options besides Zoom, like Microsoft Teams and other things like that, but they're all very similar to Zoom.
They're all going to generate like a one-time link.
Yeah, most of them are. You can occasionally schedule a meeting. I think you can do a recurring meeting. I don't think the Zoom link changes in that.
Okay.
If you do a recurring meeting.
And don't get confused with the Zoom link versus the recording. The recording is a file that
Right.
no,
I
it'll be housed somewhere, and it's not going to change.
Well, and I mean, if we wanted to keep that house, I mean, I'm sure we could end up contacting like CSI and do just like a small server for if it's that much data. I mean, it's not that the recording's not the issue. I think it's more of the interaction side of this for me. Is there any way we could do that and not kind of like what Mark was saying? Just here's a link. You can click on this link and go to the meeting tonight. So besides trying to do that last minute.
Yeah, no, there is a way to set up recurring meetings in Zoom. I do not believe the link changes.
Okay.
Okay. It doesn't change. So we could set up recurring meetings. Now, I don't know if we say, for instance, move the board meeting from the second Tuesday to like the third Tuesday because everybody's out on fall break. I don't know if you can edit the recurring schedule to do that or if we have to have a one-off case for that. That would be the only thing I can think of where that potentially couldn't work.
Anything else from the board here?
The uploading of the Zoom to the YouTube
Yes.
versus your setup now, once again, I just want to confirm, is that a difficult, tedious process?
Not at all. Not at all. It's just like uploading any other kind of video to YouTube. I mean, you just...
Have we been hacked on YouTube yet like we were on Zoom?
No, because it's one way. Because we're streaming to YouTube, there's no individuals
Alderman Feldner made a good point. We did
streaming
have one
into.
Zoom.
Oh, we had it 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Several times we had it
Mhm.
where we were hacked.
Yeah, because there's no way for a citizen or anyone else, any malicious actor, to do anything with the stream. So.
All right, ma'am.
Can I bring up the medical accommodation that we've been requesting as citizens for 12 to 18
Can't
months?
hear you. Come on up here, but this is, I'm just allowing that.
Sorry, I know this is board, I appreciate it. I've been making a request, a medical
Now, state
accommodation.
your name.
I'm Persia Phelps, I live at 20 Nugget Lane.
Okay.
You all know who I am. Hi, I've been making a medical request for 12 to 18 months for virtual meetings with citizen participation. Myself, as well as other members in the community, have legitimate medical conditions, and we've been asking for a reasonable accommodation, and we've been being turned down. And now I've been being ignored by Mark and other members of the board because you guys are tired of hearing from me. I appreciate the ones of you who are still taking my calls. That feels like retaliation and discrimination, and before you vote, I'd really like you all to familiarize yourself with the ADA Title II, and really understand the Americans with Disabilities Act and your responsibilities as town administrators to help accommodate reasonably to those of us in the community who can't always make it here in person due to medical disabilities. So please consider that as you make this vote.
When did we stop doing Zoom?
On March 9th of 2021, you all sat here and told me you would keep doing it, but no one, only half of you seem to remember that.
I never said it.
It's in the notes, but they didn't put that you approved it, but it was the one where Cody and
All
Rusty
right,
were nailed.
we not
Please
getting in the weeds
consider that.
on
I'd like
this.
it formally, and I think the lawyer is here. I tried to call Casey earlier. If I need to call a lawyer, please let me know, but I'd like you guys to consider this. This is a medical accommodation request I've been asking for 12 to 18 months, and I'm tired of being turned
So
down.
what are you asking the medical? I mean, we're not going,
I'm asking you to keep it virtual with citizen participation so we can participate like any other citizen can when they come in person. I did email my concerns, and Mark responded back telling me I had to show up in person today. He did not allow me to email my concerns in like you're stating would
well,
hypothetically
we're trying to
happen.
decide that tonight.
Okay, you can vote on that, but I'm just telling you to consider the ADA regulations when you vote.
All right, thank you. Ms. Casey, did you hear that? She didn't hear it?
Yes, I did. Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I heard it.
Okay. All right, let's get back to, so, let me have a motion from this board.
Someone asked other towns, Covington live streams through Facebook, then uploads it to YouTube. Of course, they've taped their meetings forever, per the covenant leader. Just sent me a message. Well, echo dated.
All right, we have a motion, or what this is, we have a motion to accept the resolution of one of these three. I need a motion from one of these three.
Mayor, would if I could, I think would be beneficial is to get consensus from the board and you provide the direction, because I think if we set the policy,
Then you'll do the resolution next month.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Which direction do you want?
I personally would like to see an option 4, and that's Zoom the meetings and provide an opportunity for the citizens to provide feedback at the end, and then those recordings uploaded to YouTube or however we're doing it, so that, as Alderman Aiken mentioned, it's not just a one and done. It is there for at least those that missed it, and go back and look at it later, but those that do have a concern, would like to address their elected officials, but could not attend the meeting for medical reasons or various reasons, could have that opportunity.
I'll second with John, especially because I know from like my personal experience, I was in retail. There were a lot of nights that I couldn't make it to the meeting itself. So if I could have voiced a concern myself, that through Zoom, it would have been nice, or any other platform that we can get to.
All right, we have a motion.
No motion.
We don't have a motion yet. We got 4 different things. So tell me, which way do you want to go? You mean?
John, put yours in a motion and we'll vote on it.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we use Zoom or an equivalent software service to record the meetings and provide the opportunity for citizens' concerns virtually. I would also like the ability for that recording to be uploaded to YouTube or a similar service, the website, however we want to do it, for citizens that missed the live meeting to have the opportunity to review those meetings at a later date.
And Cody seconded that?
Yep.
Can that be done?
Yeah, that can be done.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, any more discussion? All right, we have a motion to put it on Zoom for people to ask questions at the citizens' concern time. And they have 2 minutes to do that, just like anybody
Just
else
like in
would.
person, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Do you need to bring a resolution back, or?
Well,
you
you
need,
have a motion on the floor that would need now to be acted upon. So if that's the motion, we'll make sure that we have the motion documented properly, and then we'll bring back.
the resolution, yeah.
I mean, if you all want to call a casual vote, unless you don't.
Well, it's a bit of casual, we were gonna let you draw it back up to get to us, where we can have it in paper and writing.
But what I'm saying is you have a motion and a second, so.
Yeah, we gotta act on it. All right? Does everybody know what they're voting on? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right,
Bring
We
back
might-
the resolution next month.
we'll bring it back to us. You might get 2 hats on this. All right, move on. Thank you. All right, let's see, it was one other thing. I think that's it right now. All right, code enforcement, you have your information there. Mr. Administrator, do you need to say anything about that?
Yeah, the report. I don't have anything to add to it.
All right, fire department. Chief Bowles?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Board of Aldermen. You got a copy of my numbers for December. Last year, we made 1,297 calls for service. That is an 18.4% increase over last year, the previous year. So it was quite a busy year, and it continues to grow. Don't have a whole lot. The Santa's Ride, as everybody knows, I think it was probably the largest crowd that turned out for those 2 nights. We had pretty good weather, and I think everybody really enjoyed it. New Year's Eve, we did 2 inspections looking for occupancy as far as the crowd. We went to the cigar bar and to the hookah bar. Cigar bar was fine, and the hookah bar was not open on New Year's Eve, so it was closed.
What was the fine for, Chief?
Sir?
What was the fine for?
He's saying it did fine, he's using a country
Oh, it
term.
was, okay.
We found
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
He was using a very well.
Yeah. More applause. As I'm sure everybody knows, Thursday night, we did automatic aid to Munford for the River of Light church fire. We spent over 15 plus hours over there, most of it in 17, 18 degree weather. We had 10 firefighters. We had 6 of our full-time and 4 reserves show up, so we had 10 over there. And we were there for over 15 hours doing it. Other than that, there's no other questions. That's all I got.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Parks, Director Isabel.
Good evening. As you can see, if y'all have any questions, just let me know. Right now, we are doing all of our spring signups. As y'all can tell, we're working on our food truck festival, barbecue fest, and on our bunny brunch, along with soccer, softball, and spring art class. We are also using this time kind of where you have spring cleanup. We call it winter cleanup. So it's kind of like a break per se to get jump started for the spring. We don't have time for spring cleanup during spring. So we're cleaning, organizing in all aspects where it comes to programs, our computers, our files, maintenance, the sheds, the shop, you name it. So that way we're nice and good to go for when spring starts. Do any of y'all have any questions? The bank at Pioneer looks like it's holding through the last couple rains, so I've been pretty excited about that too.
Thank you. All right, Chief, Police Department.
So good evening. If you go ahead and forward the slide. You have the stats in front of you. The important piece to note out of all this is Part 1 crimes.
There.
Part 1 crimes, as you can see, have gone down 14% for this the year. This is totals through December 31st. That's your major crimes that we report to the state of Tennessee. Next. These are quality of life issues within the town and enforcement. Next. So I included this. This was what my predecessor, Chief Poole, used to give you. The reason I included this in here is because you will see some statistical differences. The reason so is I came in February 13, so I did not incorporate those in the new standard because you're comparing some different things at that time. So this will show you from January all the way to December 31st. I went ahead and continued to keep those stats as well. The next. This is the municipal court. You can see the activity of the court for the year. And next. Notable arrest. Back on December 4th, officers were on routine patrol of the town. They had a vehicle that was driving all over the roadway. They made a traffic stop. They were able to determine the occupants were intoxicated in possession of a handgun. They were so intoxicated they thought they were in Mississippi. But anyway, they had a plethora of charges there based off of the interaction with citizens and the such, and then with us. So they we introduced them to the court system. Next. We're continuing on with our training. Right now we're doing in-service training, which is our annual required training. So anytime we have training and life and sicknesses and the such sometimes overtime becomes affected because we have to man the shift, but these are the annual mandatory trainings. And that's it for me unless y'all have any
Can
questions.
you go back to the old school stats?
Yes.
That's it.
Okay, I was-
It's on the screens.
I was just looking at the top city numbers there, citations.
Yeah, you can see that roughly September was about the time we got online with our e-ticketing program. And so that became our e-evidence module as well. So, and we became fully staffed, so we have a lot of activity in the town.
Yeah. Thank you,
Chief,
sir.
just a quick question on your report.
Yes, sir.
Weapons, is that weapons charges like the possession of a firearm while intoxicated? Is that those charges? Okay.
All right, thank you, Chief. All right, you got your information on the Public Works Department, and I think that it speaks for itself, and we'll have Dalton back in with us next Tuesday.
Yes.
Tuesday. Y'all are off Monday?
Yes, sir.
Do y'all ever work?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sometimes on Saturdays.
Okay.
But no one's here to witness.
That's right. All right. Miscellaneous items from the mayor, board of aldermen, town administrator. I would say we need to have a matter, take this matter into, just need to recognize and accept, as you know, Mr. Rex Wallace resigned, and we just need to put this in record that we accept his resignation. Do I have a motion to do this?
I'll make a motion to accept his resignation.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. We got that.
Two things that I wanted to bring to the board's attention. One was that Alderwoman Redfro had asked, and I thought it was a good question, about getting y'all your own monitors so that when we are reviewing technical things, that y'all can look at the things in front of you. So we're going to be moving forward with that. It's not too much of a cost, about $900 installed for everything that we would need. That's the monitors. And so that'll take up a little bit of space, but I think it'll make it easier for everybody to view all of the information when you guys are sitting up there. It'll also become very handy with the planning commission members. So as they're looking at plans and drawings, they're looking at everything that's right in front of them. Secondly, I don't know if the mayor, if you were going to bring this up, Mayor, if you were going to bring this up, I apologize, but I just wanted to bring up that you need to designate a building code official.
Okay.
And it would be for a temporary period of time until we have that position filled.
All right, well, I forgot that. That's what I was looking at. Thank you, Mark. I think our policy or board policy says that in lieu of not having one, I can appoint somebody. I'm just going to appoint Mark Warren, our town administrator, to handle this until we get somebody on board.
And it's really just the ability to legally sign.
Legally signed, you gotta have that. We gotta approve that as a board to have it be
Yes.
legally binding.
We're still having Mr. Glenn over in Montford.
All those
inspections.
wanna do
All the
that.
inspections are going to be done by.
This is for the paperwork.
This is just for the paperwork, yes, sir.
All right, we need to vote on that?
Should.
All right, I have a motion, I nominate town administrator, Mr. Mark Warner, to handle the paperwork and to be there in the what?
Building code official.
Building code official until, for temporary or for interim, that's what I need to say, interim. Have a motion to do this?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion, have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, citizens' concern. Oh, excuse me, we through, Board of Aldermen, y'all have something? All right. This time, citizens' concern, come forward, state your name and your concern. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, before I start, I actually have 3 nice gentlemen in the back who donated their 2 minutes, so I think I have 8.
No, ma'am. You got 2.
People can donate their
You
time.
got 2.
You can't make that rule. People have been able to donate their time forever, as John's face says. Anyway, my conversation is about the lack of accountability within this town, and I was going to start off a little nicer, but I have 8 minutes. So my issues are, 1, the lack of response from the board. I know I've called some of you and emailed you, but I'll start really with some concerns I discovered when I reached out to Mark, our town administrator, regarding the virtual meetings and trying to get this set up over the last few months. So I pulled up the town administrator's job description because there were some responses from Aldermen and from Mark stating that they were not responsible to the citizens. So Brett had stated that Mark was not responsible to, or not liable, or didn't have to respond to citizens directly. Mark did not want to take my emails before this meeting and has been avoiding my calls for 6+ weeks. I believe he wrote up Rex, if I'm not mistaken, for the same thing, but not responding within 24 hours. He's taken over 6 weeks to respond to my voicemails, and he did admit that he's gotten them, which I'll take as him intentionally avoiding me, potentially for the virtual accommodation request, but we'll talk about that with the lawyers offline. With that, according to his job description, the one that you guys came up with, Debbie signed off on, there are a number of points in here that make him accountable to the citizens. One in which I think that the citizens would be really concerned here about is the trash. So through this, I asked him, he lives in my neighborhood, as does Barry's daughter and Stephen and a few others, and I asked him if he was reporting the missed trash pickups in our neighborhood, because the Waste Pro reported missed number is very low, considering the number of houses in our neighborhood that are routinely missed. He told me it wasn't his job to report citizen concerns that weren't his own. That concerns me. In his job description, he is directly responsible, and it says the town also provides and it says that he is responsible and manages the contracted collection of residential trash and recycling. It also says that his job is to improve the service delivery, and a number of other issues. My concern is a conflict of interest here. If you're not reporting the clear breaches of contract that you see in your neighborhood, and you have a concern reporting citizens' concerns as the town administrator, and you're the one negotiating the contracts on our behalf, it puts us in an unfavorable negotiation position in the future with Waste Pro.
All right, Ms. Persia, that's your 2.
Okay.
Who's giving you?
My husband, Matt Phelps, gave me one, Chris gave me one, and then...
Oh, hold on.
Okay.
All right. Who?
I yield my 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Keep going.
So I'd like to understand what's being done, 1, to hold accountable. Is that the truth? Is he not responsible for reporting obvious trash pickups that he passes every single day in his numbers that he's reporting? If the numbers are unrealistically low for one neighborhood being missed, is that fair to the citizens, and are we fairly being represented? And in his job description, once again, that you guys signed off on, he has to diplomatically present management recommendations that are best for the town, and that is in quotations. He is to act in the best interest of the town. I do not believe that's happening if he's standing on his stance that he's only going to report his trash pickup, and it is not his job to pick up those of the citizens or to report anything that he sees that might be amiss. I don't know if I can pause my time, or if my 2 minutes pauses. I'd love for you all to respond on your feelings on that, because as a citizen, personally, I'm very upset about that. I would like my town officials to be doing what's in the best interest of me and our negotiation. As a taxpayer, my tax dollars should be going to people and their salaries who are representing our best interests and helping us resolve our issues, which also, funnily enough, is in his job description that he's not doing. So we can get to that if you'd like to follow up, or you can pause my time. Your call, Mr. Mayor.
Well, let's answer them back. It's going to be some of your time, but this.
No, it's okay. Oh, no, I'll take my time then. Okay, so you can get there. Okay. Another concern that I have is the accountability of the citizens. So he is supposed to have a track record of successfully resolving citizen concerns. He's supposed to have a regular and timely communication with these groups, which is actually the citizens, the media, and the community groups and organizations. In that time, I'd also like him and the Board of Aldermen, his managers, to speak to how 6 weeks of knowingly avoiding someone's calls, emails, and messages with multiple town representatives, I don't know what the front desk girls are called. Can you speak to that? Because how is that timely communication with these groups, being a citizen, how is that following his job description and answering the citizens' Throughout this entire packet, it states that the town is committed to citizen service and customer service and being citizen-focused and being the voice of the citizens and being that liaison to the citizens. So Brett's comment about how it's not his job to respond directly to citizens and his comment about how it's not his problem to address our issues goes directly against his job description. I would like the board to answer to that because I feel like a lot of town employees are getting written up for things that Mark is doing himself. And as a citizen, they're impacting us. I was unable to get my medical accommodation for virtual meetings listened to because Mark is actively avoiding my calls. How is that okay as a tax-paying citizen if he's upset at me and you guys have decided to stop taking my calls? That's not okay. My tax dollars pay his salary. All of our tax dollars do. He needs to act in our best interest. So I'll stop my 2 minutes and I'd like you guys to answer those questions, please, and then I'll resume.
I'll go first, Persia. Ask me one question and I'll give you an answer and we'll go back and forth that way.
So with the 6+ weeks of him not responding knowingly.
Let me start with Brett. When Brett made that comment to you, and again, that's Alderman Giannini's comment, I didn't agree with it. I think he was wrong in that. And the administrator, this citizen should be able to go to the administrator or the relevant departmental head, and if they don't get any satisfaction. The garbage collection. I disagree with you. I'm not going to call in to the front desk. I call in when my garbage is not picked up. I do not call in and say, oh, by the way, there's 12 other people on my street. I might say, well, I can see they didn't get my neighbors, but it's not his job. I don't feel it's his job to report 100 miscollections. If there is such a thing.
I agree with you on part of that. It isn't your job, but you're not the one leading the negotiations with Waste Pro.
So let him finish.
But I don't believe it's his job either to do that. We encourage citizens. We hold the Waste Pro. You implied that because of Mark, that the citizens are not going to get a fair shake when it comes to the garbage company, the garbage contract. We have had those officials in front of us, the board. Not in front of Mark. They're in front of the board and they're in front of the mayor. We're going to have them back. One thing that we encourage, and one thing I actually got in a discussion with a gentleman because he says he doesn't report his miscollections. Well, he's part of the problem. He's not the solution. So we are going to hold the trash company accountable, not Mark. We are going to hold them accountable. And that's why we encourage citizens, just like if citizens have a pothole on the street. If I see it, sure, I'll open up a service request, but I would hope that there's so many more eyeballs than just me that can report when they see things wrong. Okay, so, I mean, that's the garbage collection. I do agree with you that his job description is available to citizens. And you shotgun blast me so many questions, I've lost you.
I'm sorry, I would ask slower, but I get these 2-minute limits.
Well, just ask the question to him.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, I have to go back. So, you answered it, I'll agree to disagree on the trash.
Yeah. I've got another answer for the tax collection too.
Do you want to
hear that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or the trash?
Yeah, go for the trash collection first and we'll go back.
All right. We're not the only one experiencing the problem. We reached out to Covington. They have a different vendor than Mumford and us, so I'm going to address Mumford. They're having the same issues. The Republic Services, Covington is also having issues because of the COVID, because of all these things we're trying to do. So our thinking, we've already addressed it and called them before us. And we gave them some ultimatums and we tried. But our thinking was that if you wait, I mean, if everybody's having trouble, you might fire these and not get nobody, and then you're going to have to sure enough be fussing this.
I'll go take
and then
my
the
turn.
second thing is, I think the two options that in January or end of December next year, we negotiate another contract. In June, we're going to start putting, June or July, you can hold it and call me a liar one way or another. It's June or July, it might be August, one of those times. We're going to put out start putting out bids and start getting who's interested. That's the process we're gonna do, and then we'll start it. We might not get anybody to come back, because I tell you, a lot of the trash companies that I know are going out of business because of this stuff. Now, so that's what we're doing. Now, you say we're not taking care of the citizens. We are, but it might not be like Ms. Persian wants us to take care of them, but we are. I know a lot of people here. I know them by name, and I go and I see them. And they tell me and hold me accountable. But they also come up and say, when I do a good job, you do a good job. That would be nice. Now, the second thing is, I think the town has two options here. We got to look at recycling. We got to look at other things for 5 more years. But also, we got to start looking at going up in the trash allotment, because they go up on us every year, just like the water does. So we got to start doing it. We hadn't been doing that to the citizen. We've been eating that, which is fine. So that's all I have to say about that, like Forrest Gump. That's all I got to say.
The other part was
what's the other question?
the 6 weeks, and if he was being held accountable, like he's holding his staff members to be accountable to return.
Well, I can answer that. He is being held accountable, come in here every day, but we also have an evaluation process that we used to have, and we hadn't put that back in place, and I will take responsibility for that. But we used to have that. But when we had it with Mr. Brian Coral, we did that, but we had to tweak it a lot, and I just let that drop. So you can talk about Darrell Walker there, not Mark Moore on that. But he's accountable to us. And I have to, and these things that you have talked about, that we have adopted, we'll go over that with him when that time comes, when I get this thing in my mind about how to evaluate.
So has he held off on evaluating his staff members though during that whole time, or he's been evaluating but he's not being evaluated the same way? That's
You
that
can't
right?
answer, you asked me about him.
Okay.
Okay.
So is he not being held to these standards currently, only at the evaluation?
That's all I can tell you about that. I can't tell you any more except evaluation. Now, if another board member has more than that, that's fine.
Okay.
But I answered that the best way that I could.
Danny, I think it goes to you if you want to answer.
I'm the same with on the trash. You know, I don't expect anybody to look at my garbage can or see if it's been dumped.
It's pretty obvious in Sterling Ridge. People literally take their bags together and stack them as high as they can. It's comical.
But I report when mine's missed, and half the time it's missed because it's still sitting in the driveway and I don't roll it to the street. And I just hope that someone will drive by and see that I didn't put my garbage out and put it out for me. But if mine's missed, I report it. If the whole I don't ever know if the whole street's missed because it's dark when I get home and I don't really pay attention to garbage cans.
As a follow-up question, is it an acceptable response to a citizen when they ask if you're reporting it to say it's not my job? Is that how you would respond? Because I think that's the other part that gets me, is it's not my job and there's no further.
Was this before or after the phone call?
This was during when I finally got a hold of him. I believe it was Friday afternoon. I'd have to look back at phone records after. I've been trying to reach him since before Thanksgiving.
To me, I don't feel it is a job.
I mean, his job description could argue otherwise, but okay.
Well, you asked me.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's fair. It's fair. It's okay.
About
What about the 6 weeks delay? Can you speak to that?
Did you know if he got that? Did you know if he got what you asked?
He told me that he only received 3 of the voicemails, and he knew because they were emailed, but he didn't receive all of the other things, even though I called almost daily, and you can ask the girls at the front desk, I'm sure, Jesse and the other girls, I apologize, heard me many times.
Anybody else have any?
You made mention about him writing Rex up, but Rex had on his phone where he had talked to you that day before you called and told Mark that you had talked to him.
I don't know the details around it. All I know is I have town staff members texting me and emailing me and Facebooking me that I've never even met, asking for me to come and speak on their behalf because they do not like the current management and they're scared of their jobs and they're scared of speaking out. So I've been asked to come here to speak on their behalf, which will be my other 4 minutes, but that's a concern.
You said that, that's good.
Which I paused it. We haven't been timing you this whole time.
Sorry, I just,
You're only 5 minutes and 18 seconds in. That'd be great.
All right, yeah, not to rehash all things, again, we are continuously evaluating Waste Pro, asking them to come before us. And then, as the mayor mentioned, we do not want to cut our nose off to spite our face. So that is something that I will, once again, I think us as a board, it's been pretty consistent. I will say I would not expect Mark to drive down and write down addresses. But at the same time, it's fairly easy to make a mental note of, hey, at least my neighborhood was missed on this date.
And
Okay?
that's all I'm asking
Yeah,
for,
okay.
right? Is,
Yes.
my neighborhood is 187 houses, I drive by
Yeah.
it twice a day.
Right.
Pretty sure we all got missed. Let's just make a note that it's 187 and not 4.
I'm not going to, on the second part of your question, I'm not going to acknowledge or deny in terms of the response time and kind of the calls that were made. I will say for the record, once again, from a professional standpoint, I would recommend that town staff return calls and emails in a reasonable amount of time, 24 to 48 hours. Yeah.
Thank you.
Going along lines of this other three, I will say on the trash collection, even if it's not a miscollection necessarily on the paper, all of us up here, Mark, I know when Waste Pro comes in front of us, we do know too that, like, for instance, this past ice snow mixture that just came through, they delayed a day. My recycle didn't get picked up till Monday, and me and Mark spoke about that this morning. But looking down the street, the entire street got mixed. I won't call all that in, but I've made that mental note that, hey, this is an ongoing issue. Now, the other thing too is everybody else is kind of fighting with it, so we've got to kind of draw those lines, but right now there's got to be a little bit of leniency only because of the staffing issues. But that is for Waste Pro to answer as to why they're having all these issues pretty consistently as well. And then in terms of, Mark, kind of along the lines with John, I don't know what calls or texts or emails went through. I don't know which ones went to what departments. But in terms of hitting Mark's evaluation, we evaluate him every year just as the same as everybody else. And we do that basically because he's under a contract. If we at any point feel that he's not doing his job, we can choose not to renew that contract. So at that point, we are currently always evaluating him. It's not necessarily always seen because of the contract, stuff like that.
And is there any action plan? I know you said that you wouldn't expect, but you are taking a mental note. Those mental notes, how are those being accounted for in the Waste Pro collection numbers, or how are those mental notes being accounted for if anyone is taking them?
I think that's exactly the problem. If it's a mental note, then it's worthless. That's why we need the calls, we need the records, so that we can give the, if anything, I think if we were to do what you were suggesting, I would think the company could come back and say, well, now, are those actual citizens, or are those something that y'all just decided to put down 100 when you really didn't know? I would think that would make our case less weaker.
My tickets always say it's all Sterling Ridge. It's like 200
Yeah, but
houses,
that's
no
so
one
general.
ever.
Yeah, that's so general.
I don't know how many
about it.
houses there are. You guys.
I
know
can say it's all
houses.
Oak Creek. I live in Oak Creek, but that's a very general term, and the trash company's going to say, no, whoa, whoa, whoa.
What address?
I've got a truck record that day that he went to Oak Creek here, which they do that. They have video.
Yeah.
So, if anything, I think it lessens our case if we were to adopt something you're talking about. Whereas if I've got Barry Aiken, 44 West Cherry Bark Drive, missed a collection this day, that's fact. That's legit. They can't argue with that. And if they do, they can pull their video and say, well, Barry didn't put his can out like Danny, and that's why he got missed.
I don't
So,
turn those in, Barry. I don't turn those in.
then you're part of the problem.
If it's by my garage, I don't turn it in, because it was me.
And Percy, just overall, yes, Mark is accountable to you. He's accountable to Bill. He's accountable to Robin. He's accountable to everybody in this room and people that are not in this room. So I agree with you.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I wasn't crazy.
He
and
is accountable to all citizens of Atoka.
Thank you. Sorry, Christina.
Well, no, I agree with what he was saying about the trash. I get what you're wanting. You're wanting those numbers. You're wanting those numbers to be able to say, look, this is what's going on. Well, in order to do that, each individual Because if Mark says, well, all of, the subdivision didn't get caught, well, you don't know if somebody didn't put their trash can out or this, that, or the other. You see what I'm saying? So in order to help us, negotiate on the contract, we need those numbers. So, talk to your neighbors and say, look, we all really need you, because there's several ways where they can put in a report, the app or calling up here. That's what we need, are those numbers, which is what I think is what you're saying. We do need those numbers, and that is the best way for us to get them, is each individual person. Because, I do the same thing when I report mine being missed. I say mine at, this address has been missed. I also noticed that my neighborhood has not gotten. But that's not going to give them numbers. That's just going to give them the number from my house.
And I agree. I think I can make tickets though for your house or for anyone's house. So, and I'm not saying that anyone should make 100 tickets. I did call and someone made a very abrupt comment that they would not be doing that, and I did not ask them for that for the record. I would ask that in that one.
Is that any more questions?
6 weeks, sorry.
I agree with what everyone has said, a reasonable amount of time to get back.
Thank you. I promise I won't use my full rest of my time. My only last concern or thing I wanted to address was just the employees, and I'm not going to disclose who they are, but as the people who are over the town administrator who is over the town, just look at your turnover, try and look at your employee morale at town hall. I've had a number of people, I moved here like a year ago, you guys, I don't know who anyone is here, and people reach out to me a lot on Facebook because I'm the voice up here all the time, whether it's a citizen or whether it's someone else saying that they're too afraid to have their voice heard because they're afraid of retaliation in this town and in this government or town hall or whatever. So I would just ask that you guys take a deeper look and not at employees. I'm not asking, please don't go on a hunt. What I'm asking for is look at what the culture, your job description is asking for, and then look at if you think you actually have that. And I can tell you from a number of confidential messages I keep receiving, you're not there. So I'm just asking that for the benefit of this town and the people of this town, you guys really try and work on that and improve that for them, because they deserve better. They deserve a comfortable place to
They
live.
don't want to say anything about it, and they don't deserve it. They're just going to use you as a person to come up here. That's not validity to me. If they will come, that's a different story. But let me say this. I'm here every day, and I don't see that culture you're talking about.
Mayor Walker, with all respect, you haven't written up a man who wrote up people for exactly what he's been doing, but much worse. I'm not going to account for what you see or don't see.
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
I'm not going to account for what you see or don't see. You're going by hearsay. Is that what I hear?
I am.
Did you see it, or are you going by hearsay?
I'm going to tell you what I see.
Are they current employees or former?
Both.
Okay. All right, anything else, Ms. Purse?
I
It's time.
think that's that. Anything I'm missing? No, I think that's good.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
How y'all doing tonight?
I reckon you have 2 minutes, but if you tell me you want more,
I want
reckon
more.
just have to do
I
it,
want
man.
more.
Go ahead.
Red Picker, 165 Atkinson Circle. A couple years ago, when y'all were really getting into the roundabout, I inquired what your plan was for Mead Lake and Atoka Island.
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Well, I'm gonna be like, somebody said to me the other night, I don't have a plan.
Okay.
But here's the thing. You talking about for Mead Lake?
Mead Lake,
Oh,
Atoka Island, Main Street.
We've looked at several things.
Short term, long term?
I got
Any
long
term.
Long term, I mean, it's going.
Long term don't work.
Yeah, okay.
You have 7 years building a roundabout.
That's right.
Hey.
And that wasn't all
Yeah.
our fault, but it was some of
Why
our
could we
fault.
not direct traffic like we do in the morning, in the afternoon?
Well, we might need to consider that, but I can.
Would be
talk
something to
to
consider.
you. It is.
But
That's
it's a
good-
cluster.
That's a good suggestion.
It goes back up way,
Now, what
Way
time you
back.
talking about?
It's a very
5
big
to
cluster.
6.
5 to 6?
Yeah,
It backs from the three-way all the way past.
all the way over
We've
the
been-
bridge.
I think.
Yeah.
For me, I'm a huge proponent, I think the board is too, of getting Walker Parkway extended to 51. Now, that is a monumental task. In my opinion, that east-west connector will reduce the traffic flow on Atoka, Idaville, and Mead Lake.
Okay, what have you done to get a bridge over the railroad track?
Well, we've
What have you
applied for
done?
grants. Yes, we have attempted, we have applied for grants.
Just
We have-
now, recently?
Yes, sir, I got his,
Last-
I'll say that.
Yeah.
SSR,
When did we apply for the grant?
we applied for grant a year ago.
Okay.
And was turned down.
Yeah.
So we
Should
applied.
have applied 7 years ago, when you started on roundabout.
I'm not disagreeing
Okay,
with that.
yeah. But would you look into directing traffic?
We'll look into
Sure.
it. Chief hears it right there. And,
I know it's unfavorable, but I came home to a cluster the other night.
it's frustrating.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing.
My friend couldn't even get to my house due to some activity going on there.
Yes.
Do you feel the no left turn in the afternoon has helped or hurt or?
Hurt. That's what I'm talking about. That was a cluster. And he tried to get out to go around and come around, and like he got run over.
All right, sir.
All right, sir. This awning was put over the side door. What did that cost?
At what?
Awning, put over the side door. Roughly, 1,000, 2,000?
Probably,
I think
about $1,400
if
memory serves.
Why did we put an awning over a door that we closed to the public? And why did we close it to the public?
So for building access?
Yeah, I mean,
Restrict building access, because at the time the door was open, employees still used that door for entry and exit.
why is it restricted though when it was put there and thousands of dollars were spent on that door?
And one of the things employees requested, they wanted an awning over that door.
But why is it locked though?
Well, so we have control of where people were coming in and exiting the building. That's why it's locked to the public. There's really no need for folks to come in that side door. If they're gonna conduct business, they're gonna come in generally through the front door of the police department.
Well, I disagree, but, you know, it was put there for a reason, and the craziest person in town I saw here a while back going in and out the front door several different days, so that didn't have anything to do with it. And this beer permit you just passed, and barring your word, pop-up church,
Yes, sir.
perfect example, Casa. They had a pop-up church beside them. If that church was still there, the way you've got this, and Casa decided to sell to someone else, would they be allowed to get a beer permit?
I don't know.
What about Kroger? What if Kroger decided to sell and there was a pop-up church in one of them little stalls left over there? Would they be able to get one?
I'd say it'd have to come before us.
But you've got the 200 feet there.
We'll have to consider that kind of, to me, it'd be like the board of zoning appeal. to us.
Which it was 200 feet before.
Yeah.
It was, so I guess it'd be the same way it was back when we changed it to 200 feet.
But you didn't have the little pop-up churches when you came up with 200 feet.
I'd say to me though, it would also depend too, are we selling Casa Mexicana to another owner and they are continuing to operate, or are
You
they
have to
opening
apply.
a whole new
You
business?
can't sell the permit, you have to buy it.
Right.
So what's the difference in a new one?
Or it changes names, becomes a whole different restaurant.
But I would take it on a case by case. I would look at the facts of that particular case. I mean, yeah, I can't sit here today and tell you what the outcome's
Okay.
gonna be. I look at all the facts and we'd have to make a ruling.
Okay.
And I think BCA is a great example. We'd have to give them
But
an
do you have
exemption.
that in that ordinance to where you have that authority to do that?
The beer board would.
I think.
Is it in the ordinance where they have that authority to do that? To violate the rules?
We would sure check with the lawyer first.
I would before you pass it, yeah.
I'm not on first rodeo tonight. I tell you that. I'll look at and check and make sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Y'all have a good evening.
Hey,
Thank you, sir.
All right, anyone else? Hearing none.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.